I'm trying to build a retro game collection without just buying everything online. Part of the fun for me is finding local shops, talking to people, and seeing what's actually out there. This weekend I had baby duty all to myself, but I still wanted to check out a game shop I'd been thinking about. So we stopped by, and I messed up the timing. They were already closed. Oops. Not a big deal. Now I know for next week. And honestly, it was still nice just getting out for a bit. Sometimes that's half the point. The next day, we had plans for the zoo. I'd been looking up game shops around the area.
Head on in, see what we got.
And it's been a little tough lately to find places with a wider selection of retro Nintendo stuff. But there was one near the zoo that actually was open on Sunday. It looked like they were open in the morning and evening, so I decided to stop in quick on the way. I'd seen pictures of the place, but walking in it was way more than I expected. This was not going to be a quick decision kind of store. There was a lot to look through. And we still had to get to the zoo. So we took a quick lap. I tried to remember a few things I wanted to come back to, and we headed out. It was Ash's first time at the zoo. It was still a little cold here in Wisconsin, but it felt good to be outside. After that, we had a little time before dinner, so we went back for a second look. Ash was sleepy, but he's a pretty good little tag-along. This time I slowed down a bit. I looked closer at stuff I'd noticed earlier, and started doing that thing where you try to convince yourself you're just looking. Posters like this are really tempting for me. I've been wanting to build some kind of old family video or Toys R Us feeling at home. Not exactly a store, but the kind of feeling of walking in and seeing shelves, posters, and games and cases. All the stuff that made it feel like an experience. That's part of what I miss. The GameCube games were tempting too, especially Pokémon Channel. But it wasn't cheap, and I wanted a cleaner case if I was going to spend that much. GameCube stuff is really interesting right now. I don't see it nearly as much compared to Xbox, PS2, or even some older consoles. And the store worker said something that made a lot of sense. A lot of the people who grew up with N64 and GameCube games have money now. So the nostalgia is getting stronger, but the supply isn't. That's why probably some of these games feel like they disappear so fast. There's something about finding games you missed that still feel like you would have loved them. Sometimes I'm looking for a new experience I never got to have. Other times I'm just trying to remember an old one. I was pretty close to picking up a Super Nintendo too. But I decided to wait. I want to understand the market a little better first, and I also want the other style. The one that looked like my grandpa's when I was young. That's the kind of thing that makes this more than just buying games. It's not really all about the games. It's the feeling around them. A memory, a place, a specific time in life. I asked if there's any other GameCube games behind the counter, but nope. That was pretty much all they had out. Then I saw this Wii game I'd heard was pretty good. Star Wars Clone Wars Lightsaber Duels. I'd never played this as a kid. Honestly, I'm not sure how I'd missed it, because a lightsaber fighting game feels exactly what the Wii was made for. And for $7, that was a lot easier to justify. I checked the DS and Game Boy games too. There were some cool boxed games, especially Shantae, and I saw Croc too. But nothing I needed to grab right now, and that's something I'm trying to get better at. There are a lot of things I could just buy because they're cool, but I don't want collecting to turn into panic buying. I asked for an opinion on this Star Wars game for the original Xbox, and that's where the trip got better. The store worker really recommended it. Then he brought up Crimson Skies too. I hadn't heard much about that one, but the way he described it made it sound like exactly the kind of game I'd want to try. That's the part you don't really get from buying everything online. You can compare prices online, you can find good deals online, and I still do that, but you don't get the conversation. You don't get someone handing you a game and saying, actually this one's really good. He made me a deal on both, so I grabbed those, and I also picked up Aliens vs. Predator Extinction. I've been playing Aliens on the DS lately and really enjoying it, so this felt like a fun horror sci-fi pickup for the collection. I'm trying to get a little more variety in there, not just Nintendo, not just the obvious stuff. A few games that feel like they belong to a different shelf. By the end, I still walked away from a lot. The poster, the SNES, Pokémon Channel, a bunch of other things I probably could have talked myself into. But I'm trying to practice a little restraint. At least that's what I tell myself. so I feel better about window shopping. Still, this is why I like going to places like this. It's nice to get out on a weekend. It's nice to see what's out there. And sometimes if you don't buy anything even, you leave with a better idea of what you're actually looking for. And I'll definitely be back. This place is going on my list. If you like retro game hunts, old stores, and building a collection, I'd love to have you follow along. I'll be doing more of these soon.